I've loved to doodle since I was kind of maybe 2 years old or something like that. I think that's when my parents said they kind of noticed me doodling and things. And I love doodling more than any other kind of art form just because it feels so instinctive to me, and it feels like the best way to create art because you can just kind of do it wherever you are and on any surface, and you don't really have to think about it and plan it. And it feels to me like the least kind of forced way of creating work. I mean, there's no kind of real heavy message or statement or anything. You're just kind of creating something naturally and almost subconsciously, and that's what really draws me to it. I get really inspired from video games and comic books, cartoons, TV shows. Those are the kind of things that really influenced me as a child, and I still look back on today, and they influence my work. And some of my favorite artists are Keith Haring, of course. Like, I love Keith Haring's work and everything he did. Super inspirational to me in just the way that he could just create something kind of unplanned, and it would just flow, and there'd be these characters that look perfect, and that really grabbed my attention. And I feel there's a connection there, and I just really love what he did. And I also love the work of even people like Walt Disney. You know how much he did in his lifetime in terms of taking these kind of characters that he made and expanding it into a whole universe and creating artwork in so many different ways that you have like TV shows and films, but like immersive theme parks that are kind of surrounded by artwork, and just taking that to another level where you almost don't even really think of him as an artist. He's more kind of more than that, like a whole massive entity. Yeah, so those two are quite big inspirations for me. I mostly choose to use black and whites with my work because I feel like it's the strongest contrast between two colors. And I like mostly just kind of creating the drawing itself. I like creating the lines and the patterns, the shapes, and creating those kind of symbols and that language. That's the important part to me. Is in terms of the paintings within the Holburne Museum that I've created, each one kind of references the painting that it's replacing in the collection, or it references something to do with the painting on the left or the right of it, because I wanted to create something bespoke for the space, and look at all the like amazing paintings from like many years ago that exist here, and pay some sort of like respect to them, and also respond to them in some way with my own work. And although my work's very different to these kind of paintings, it was really fun to look at the compositions and the characters, or even just be inspired by the titles sometimes, and create something that feels like my own interpretation of that. I love the idea of doodling the world, and that is kind of something I think about every day, is what would Earth look like if it was completely covered by doodles. But I think I'm in the sort of minority view of people who would kind of accept that as a reality. So I have to kind of stop myself from painting over everything, and especially such precious pieces like this. I mean, if I painted over something like this, I don't think I'd get invited back very quickly. So. I dress up as Mr. Doodle, and I work as Mr. Doodle, and I kind of think to an extent as Mr. Doodle sometimes. But really, Mr. Doodle is like an exaggeration of who I really am. I mean, this kind of a possessive character that likes to doodle on everything all the time. But yeah, I have to distinguish between the character and myself, and I do dress down sometimes, and wear normal clothes and live a kind of normal life, I guess. But I love being Mr. Doodle equally, and just kind of running around and doodling over everything, and it's fun. To me, it's like really fun to make characters and express myself in that way. It's really exciting to me. Usually, when I start a new piece, If it's in response to something like a painting like this behind me, then I'll kind of look at that image and then I'll think about how I'm going to react to that, where I'm going to put things and things. But generally, 95% of my work is kind of just completely spontaneous. So I'll just kind of create shapes like circles, squares, and then they'll turn into like birds, fish, or things that are kind of a mixture of the two different animals put together, or new creatures and things. And I always try and create something new, and I don't generally try and repeat any characters or anything like that. I just try and always think of new things, and it's always fun. Just whenever I have a blank wall or a canvas or a room, I just find that really inspirational. I just want to pick up a pen and cover it as quickly as possible, really, without rushing it. I like to, most of the time, work with the same thickness so that everything feels kind of equally significant to each other, because every character is kind of on the same level and they all kind of live happily, and even though they're all different within Doodle Land. I think my favorite doodle project that I've ever done is probably got to be my house that I've doodled. It's this kind of thing that I dreamt about for way longer than any other project, I guess. In terms of an actual singular artwork, that was my favorite thing, because I live in it. It's so personal to me, and there's so much detail in there. It's by far the longest I've ever spent on a single kind of artwork, even though it's almost more than one piece because it has different rooms and stuff. But I'm really proud of that one, and I'm proud that I was able to achieve it. Yes, doodling the world is kind of, as much as I'd love that to happen, ultimately what I'm trying to create is kind of visual metaphors or demonstrations of what that world might look like. So by creating a house that's completely doodled, that kind of shows you how a house would look like. But I'd love to take that idea further and develop almost like a small town at some point, to doodle a whole town, and that'll be kind of the next stage. So that's really where I'd look to go next. But yeah, if I was able to doodle the world, I'd definitely say yes. And if someone said I could live forever and endlessly doodle the world, I'd be totally up for that.